What is a true fact so baffling, it should be false? The record for most children born to one mother is 69. To the wife of Fyodor Vasilyev, B. 1707 C.1782, a peasant from Shuya, Russia, in 27 labors, she gave birth to 16 pairs of twins, 7 sets of triplets and 4 sets of quadruplets. Edit. Wife name is Valentina Vasilyeva. Not sure what's more impressive, having that many children, or considering it's the 1700s. Living through it. Would be interested in how many of the kids survived too. That poor woman. Imagine being pregnant for over 20 years. I imagine after the first decade you just accept your life as a literal baby factory. I mean, she isn't even acknowledged by her own name. Sad face. If sound could travel through space, the roar of the sun would be deafening even though it's 93 miles away. Edit. Because space is a vacuum, monsieur. Sound can't travel though a vacuum, monsieur. Edit again. Obviously lots of other things in the universe would change. And yes, presumably other stars and planets would make noise too. We'd probably all die screaming as the Earth itself imploded from the pressure of traveling so fast. Though a universe that wasn't a vacuum, monsieur. Last edit. Yes. Jesus Christ, Rick and Morty. As hundreds of you have pointed out, that shit makes sound? Question mark. Yup. The sun is 290 decibels. If space could carry sound, it would still be 125 decibels by the time it got to Earth. It'd be like a jackhammer everywhere all the time. Of course, if that happened, we'd probably evolve to be deaf in that audio spectrum so we wouldn't notice. How often does the sun roar like that? So often you'll barely notice. Quote, well, it ain't much, but it's home. From 1613 and 1620, a samurai traveled to Rome by way of Mexico. During this time, Shakespeare was still alive. Virginia had been founded for around a decade. Galileo was accused of heresy, and Pocahontas arrived in England. He met the Pope. He was made a Roman citizen. His name was Hasekura Tsunenaga, and was the last Japanese person to officially visit Europe until around 1860. Is there a diagram or map or something of how that trip was made? The longest time between two twins being born is 87 days. I see these threads a bunch, but this answer has me interested. Gonna look up the source on that one. Kilkenny, Ireland, gave birth to twins Amy Ann and Kate Marie. Katie, Elliot, 87 days apart, making them the twins with the longest interval between their births. The twins were born at Waterford Regional Hospital. Amy was born prematurely on the 1st of June 2012 and Kate followed on the 27th of August. Guinness World Records. Seems like that would be a shitload of stress for the unborn twin in the womb. As long as they are polyzygote, non-identical, meaning two placentas, two amniotic barriers, etc., then yes, there was probably a crazy amount of jostling, but as long as the water didn't break, the second one is good to simmer indefinitely. Cheetahs can't roar, but they can meow like house cats. Whoa, is this legit? Googling now. Edit. This has been the cutest part of my day. There were more planes destroyed in World War II than there are currently intact planes on Earth today. I mean, everyone was making a shit ton of planes. A shit ton of shitty planes. Commercial airliners nowadays are pretty sick, and in terms of military planes, the dominant air force in the world is taking a quality over quantity approach, despite also having quite a few. But yeah. Edit. What I meant by shitty was vastly simpler designs that were more conducive to more quantitative production, because World War II in a lot of facets was a numbers game. Like they did the same thing with tanks. It didn't make sense to pour too much money into any given piece of hardware because it was just going to get blown up, since the technology didn't exist to prevent that in any way. These days, they can do that with planes, at least, because it's kind of hard to hit something that's literally going as fast as a bullet. Gotten a lot of responses about how World War II planes weren't actually shitty, and I agree. I was just using coarse language. Greater than the dominant air force in the world is taking a quality over quantity approach. Despite also having quite a few, but yeah. The largest air force in the world by number of planes is the U.S. Air Force. The second largest is the U.S. Navy. There is an extremely rare condition called stone man syndrome. It causes any smallest damage done to tissue to regrow into a bone. Speaking briefly, people affected by this sickness slowly turn into living statues as they get older. Wikipedia. Surgical removal of the extra bone growths has been shown to cause the body to repair the affected area with even more bone. I'll never sleep again. Adult patients eventually have to decide on what position they wish to predominantly take for the rest of their lives. This was creepier for me. I'll take the coffin pose, please. And if you could, just go ahead and throw me the fuck in it because I'm done. Removed. Third whaling. More people died making the V2 rockets during WW2 than were killed by them. Another fun fact about V2 rockets. Germany was facing a large issue with rocket fuel shortages during the project because people kept drinking it. The fuel was made from 70% ethyl alcohol and 30% water, distilled from potatoes. It was the most economically viable fuel at the time, since they were already very low on other fuels. To stop workers from drinking it, they denatured the alcohol, essentially poisoning it. But people kept drinking it anyways and getting extremely ill. This simply caused people to start leaving the V2 program, suggesting that they were only in it for the free alcohol. This also means that any alcohol over 70% ABV is stronger than actual WW2 rocket fuel. Stalin, Hitler, and Freud all lived in Vienna at the same time. Edit. And as others have pointed out, including a source further down, Tito and Trotsky were also there. If you earned $1 every second, it would take 2,921 years to have more money than Bill Gates. It's okay. I think I'll survive earning $3,600 an hour. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the silver. Edit 2. Since a lot of you are mentioning taxes and leap years, here's the math for you. A common year would net you $31,536,000, or $31,622,400 during a leap year. With these earnings, your U.S. federal income tax bracket would be 37%, so a common year would give you $19,867,680 and a leap year $19,922,112. Taking taxes and leap years into account, we can determine that it would take you 41,739.2 years to reach Bill Gates' current 2019 net worth of $103.8 billion. Edit 3. A fellow Redditor kindly said that tax brackets in the US don't work at a flat rate, so the math is more complicated than what I, non-American, initially thought. The difference taking into account the actual tax bracket calculations is negligible. As another Redditor pointed out, it's approximately 1%. Yeah, 31.5 milliyears fine. Giraffes eat bones. Ate 500 pounds. Cigarette smoking, beer drinking brown bear named Wojtek was enlisted and served in the Polish army during World War II. Private Wojtek helped the Polish win the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino, and was even promoted to corporal. Following the war, he retired in Scotland. Amazing share. I will name my firstborn son Wojtek. We live many times closer to the last dinosaur than the first and last dinosaur did to each other. And Cleopatra lived closer to the first man on the moon and to the time the pyramids were built. The life of Frank Selick, the luckiest unlucky man in the world. January 1962, Frane is riding on a train through a freezing canyon when it fell into an icy river. All 17 other passengers died while he escapes with a broken arm and hypothermia. 1963, on his first plane trip, he was sucked out of the plane's door and landed in a haystack, unscathed. 19 other people were killed in the crash. 1966, he was riding in a bus when it skidded off the road into yet another icy river. 4 passengers drowned while he only received some minor cuts and bruises. 1970, his car's engine burst into flames while he was driving, but he managed to escape before it exploded. 1973, in yet another driving incident, his car's engine was doused with hot oil from a broken fuel pump. This caused flames to shoot through the air vents, singing off all of his hair. He was otherwise unharmed. 1995, he was hit by a bus but only sustained minor injuries. 1996, to escape a head-on collision with a United Nations truck on a mountain curve, he swerved into a guardrail that broke on impact. To save himself, he jumped out of his car's open door and grabbed onto a tree branch as he watched his car plummet off the cliff. Suffice to say, the guy had a complicated relationship with the Grim Reaper. Edit. Got his name wrong. Edit 2. Got the first edit wrong. Turns out I was right the first time. He also won the lottery, I think. Yup. In 2003, he won $1.10 mil in US dollars. In 2010, he gave the rest of his money to friends and family as he wanted to live a more frugal life. If every single person on the entire planet took part in a rock-paper-scissors contest where everyone paired up and played, losers were knocked out and winners stayed on, etc., you would only have to win 33 times in a row to beat all 7.53 billion people on the planet. When Mount Everest was first measured, it was exactly 29,000 feet. It was reported as 29,002 because exactly 29,000 was not believable. I'm picturing someone standing at the bottom with a tape measure and someone running all the way up with the other end. Whoever decided that was the first man to put 2 feet on Everest. To scale, the distance between a nucleus and orbiting electron is 16 times longer than the distance between the Sun and Pluto. There's a universe inside us. There are many universes inside us. When a woman with breast implants is cremated, the implants will melt into goo. It drips to the bottom of the furnace and needs to be cleaned up once cooled. Kim Kardashian gonna just straight up melt into a puddle. Edit. Holy shit, thanks for the silvers and golds, WTF. She's had so much plastic surgery they're gonna have to recycle her. Her latest tattoo is a 2 inside a triangle. Edit. Silver and gold. You folks are awesome. Thanks, anonymous Redditors. The tattoo bit is pretty good. There is no universally accepted definition of vegetable. It's a cultural and culinary term, and varies from place to place. If my son hates it, it's a vegetable. Problem solved. Oxford University predates the Aztec Empire by over 200 years. And, for fun, one of my favorites. Woolly mammoths were still around at the time the Great Pyramids in Giza were built. Harvard didn't teach classes in calculus when it was founded because it wasn't discovered yet. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater told his story on national television. Edit. Based on suggestions below, I'm proposing a new version of this factoid which makes it sound even crazier, but still factually true. An eyewitness to Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater appeared as a contestant on a nationally televised game show with Lucille Ball. Nintendo was founded in 1889. Before video games, Nintendo ran sex hotels in Japan. So they went from encouraging sex to keeping it away? Yep. Screwy, ain't it? Not for the gamers, they aren't. If you're launching from Earth, the most difficult place to reach in the solar system is the Sun. The reason for this is that to fly directly into the Sun you need to first launch from Earth, and then remove all of your orbital velocity around the Sun. Anything less will just put you into a different orbit around the Sun rather than directly into it. The amount of power required for that to do it directly is basically impossible currently. As an alternative, you could, for relatively little power, fly all the way out to Pluto distance. Slow down much less. and then fall back into the sun. The trade-off being the travel time is now about 90 years. There are other in-between paths that will get you there for different balances of energy and time, but all of them are tougher than getting basically anywhere else in the solar system with an equivalent balance. There's a mission currently traveling to study the sun, the Parker Solar Probe. It won't be flying directly in, but plans to make the closest passes than any probe ever has. It's going to make 7 passes by Venus to shed speed so it can get closer and closer to the sun. The full flight time is planned as just less than 7 years. As of this post, they are 1 week shy of a year in. Thank you for watching.